Welcome to Cheat Sheet Tales, where secrets slip, lies unravel, and the truth always has a twist. Real stories, raw confessions, shocking betrayals. Drop a comment if you've ever caught a red flag too late. Now, let's get into today's tale. After a complicated pregnancy, I needed rest. My husband's mother volunteered to help. Days later, my child was missing. "She's safer with us," she said. My husband stood behind her and added, "You've been unstable." I showed hospital discharge notes, proving I was cleared. They called it forged. I broke into their house desperate and found a hidden room with my daughter's things neatly packed next to a bag with documents that read, "Hi Reddit, I've never told this story in full. Not to my friends, not even to my therapist. I think maybe I was scared of what people would think, or maybe I just didn't want to relive it. But it's time." My name is Rachel. I'm 35. I live in Vancouver, Washington, grew up here, worked as a case manager in social services before all this. I had a stable life, quiet, nothing special. Just normal until Sean. I met Sean when I was 30. He was soft-spoken, charming. He fixed things when they broke. Always opened doors, remembered birthdays. He had a steady job in it and a close relationship with his mom, Teresa. I thought it was sweet. He called her Mama T. She called him her rock. Looking back, I missed the warning signs. Sean never argued. That might sound good, but it wasn't. He'd shut down instead. He didn't handle stress. He avoided it. And Teresa was always around, like, too much. She came over uninvited, rearranged. My kitchen told me how to cook and how to clean. Sean never told her to stop. When I got pregnant, Teresa ramped up even more. She was buying nursery furniture before I was out of my first trimester. "You'll thank me later," she'd say. It made me uncomfortable, but Sean kept saying she was just excited to be a grandma. The pregnancy nearly broke me. Around 30 weeks, I developed high blood pressure. I started swelling up, couldn't sleep. My heart raced for no reason. I ended up in the hospital twice before they decided to induce at 37 weeks. Labor was awful. I was in pain for over 20 hours, had a bad tear, then started seizing after the delivery. Turns out it was postpartum preeclampsia. They had to monitor me constantly. I was on magnesium drip, barely able to stand. I wasn't allowed to hold my baby for the first day. They kept me for 10 days. Finally, I stabilized. When I got discharged, they said, and I quote, "medically cleared. No psychiatric concerns." I came home in a fog. Teresa was already there, not just visiting. She had moved in. Clothes in the closet, her slippers by the door. Sean said it was just temporary, so you can rest. At first, I believed them. I was too tired to argue. She helped with diapers and feeding, but after a few days, I started noticing things. My daughter, whom I named Ellie, was almost always with Teresa. When I tried to take her back, I'd get comments like, "She cries less with me. You're shaking, honey. You're still weak." One night I woke up and Ellie wasn't in her bassinet. I panicked. I ran through the house. Teresa was in the living room, rocking her. She was fussing. "I didn't want to wake you," she said. I asked her not to do that again. She smiled and nodded. The next night, she did it again. Then it got worse. One afternoon, I woke up and Ellie was just gone. So was Teresa. Sean was sitting on the edge of the bed. I knew something was off the second I saw his face. "Where's Ellie?" I asked. He rubbed his hands together, looked down, and said, "There at my mom's. Just for a little while." I sat straight up. "What do you mean? You need time to recover." He said, "We talked about it. It's just safer for Ellie right now." "No, we didn't talk about anything. You don't get to decide this without me." He looked calm. Too calm. "You've been unstable." He said, "You were in the hospital for weeks. I had preeclampsia, not a mental breakdown." He didn't care. He just stared at me like I was dangerous. I grabbed my purse and drove to the hospital. I requested a full copy of my discharge notes. They clearly said I was fine. I brought them home and showed Sean. Teresa was back by then. She took one look and said, "These could be forged." Sean didn't even argue. They thought I was crazy, or they wanted me to look crazy. Maybe both. For the next week, I tried everything. I called, I texted, I showed up at their door. They wouldn't open it. I filed a police report, but the officer told me Sean was the legal father, and since no custody order existed, it wasn't technically a crime. I got a lawyer. He said the same thing. We need to file for emergency custody, but it'll take time. Meanwhile, Sean filed his own petition. He claimed I was mentally unfit. Teresa signed an affidavit supporting his claim. They included fake therapist, notes and emails I never wrote. It was like they'd been planning this. The hearing was set for 3 months later, 3 months without Ellie, so I took matters into my own hands. One night I saw Sean had posted on Facebook he and Teresa were out to dinner at a place downtown. I knew they weren't home. I still had the spare key. I drove over, shaking the whole time. I let myself in quietly, like a thief in a house I used to call family. I searched every room, no baby. Then I noticed something strange about the guest room closet. It was locked, which was odd. Nothing in that house had ever been locked before. I grabbed a butter knife and wedged it in the lock. Popped open. Inside, I found baby clothes, diapers, toys, formula. A duffel bag sat behind the boxes. Inside it, I found a filled-out but unsigned adoption application with Teresa listed as guardian, a typed letter from Sean stating he was giving up custody, printed emails about contacting a lawyer in another state who could move things faster. And then I saw something that made my stomach turn. There was a baby passport application with a forged signature. Mine. They weren't just trying to keep her from me. They were planning to leave the state, maybe even the country. That was it. They pushed me too far. I wasn't going to let them win. I made a plan, and I made sure this time I didn't just fight to get her back. I made sure they'd never sleep easy again. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I sat in my car outside their house for 2 hours, heart pounding, staring at the light in the baby's room. I knew she was there. I saw a shadow move behind the curtains. They had her, my Ellie, just on the other side of those walls, and they were planning to steal her for good. The next morning, I called my lawyer. I didn't tell him I broke in. I just said, I found proof, real proof they're trying to take her out of state. He told me we needed to act fast. He filed a motion to freeze all custody changes and flagged the adoption agency named in the paperwork. The court agreed to move our hearing date up 2 weeks instead of 3 months. It was progress, but it wasn't fast enough. I needed to see my daughter, so I reached out to someone I never thought I'd call. Sean's ex-girlfriend, Mia. We'd never met, but I remembered her name from a box of old photos Teresa once accidentally left out, back when I was still pregnant. I saw Teresa holding a baby that wasn't Ellie. Sean and Mia had a daughter, another one I didn't even know existed. Her name was Leah. I messaged Mia on Facebook. She replied in 5 minutes. We met at a coffee shop. She was cautious at first, but once I explained what had happened, her face dropped. They did the same thing to me, she said. I just stared at her. When Leah was born, Teresa said I wasn't fit. Sean backed her up. They didn't take her completely, but they tried. They dragged me through court for 6 months. I won barely. She gave me copies of her old custody case files, testimonies, letters, everything. She handed me a manila envelope and said, "Use it and be careful. Teresa is not sweet. She's calculated." That was the moment I knew I wasn't crazy. This was a pattern. They did it before, they were doing it again, and nobody had stopped them, not Sai. Yet, that week, I did something drastic. I told the lawyer to file for full custody and a restraining order against Teresa. I also contacted Child Protective Services and told them I suspected emotional abuse and potential kidnapping. They started an investigation. I knew I had to get Ellie back, but I also knew going to the house would cause a scene. So I watched. I parked 2 blocks down and waited for Teresa to go on her daily walk. She always took Ellie out around 10 a.m. in a stroller, walking to the same park. I followed them one morning wearing a baseball cap and hoodie. She sat on a bench and pulled out her phone. Ellie was in her stroller, facing the sun. A blanket kicked off. I stood there behind a tree for a minute, just watching her. My daughter, her little feet, her sleepy eyes. My throat closed. Then Teresa looked up. Our eyes met. She stood up fast. I walked over, slow but steady. "You can't be here," she hissed. "She's my daughter." She grabbed the stroller handles. "Leave, you'll scare her." I stepped closer and said, loud enough for nearby parents to hear, "I have proof you're planning to kidnap my child. Planning to kidnap my child." And people turned their heads. A woman nearby stood up. Teresa froze. Her face changed. "This isn't over," I said. Then I walked away. That night, Sean came to my apartment. He banged on the door. I didn't answer. He shouted through the door. "What are you doing, Rachel? You're making it worse." I said nothing. He kept yelling, "You're not well. You're hurting her." Then quietly he added, "They won't let you win. You know that, right? They, not we, they." That's when I knew Sean had completely given up. He wasn't a father anymore. He was a puppet. A few days later, CPS called me. They visited the house. They saw the locked room. Teresa claimed it was storage, but when they asked Ellie's last doctor's name, she couldn't answer. When they checked Teresa's nursing license, it had expired 5 years ago. The case was open. We had our hearing date in 5 days. Then something happened. That shook everything up again. My lawyer called. He said someone filed an anonymous report with family court, a tip. They attached old medical records, Teresa's from 2001. It showed she had been committed for a brief psychiatric hold after an incident involving a child in her care. The report was buried. She had it sealed. But someone got it and sent it. The court approved an emergency review. Suddenly, everyone changed their tune. The judge ordered immediate visitation rights for me. 1 supervised visit right away. And just like that, after weeks of being shut out, I walked into a cold office room and saw my baby again. She looked confused, tired, but she reached out. For me, when I held her, I swear I felt her whole body relax. The social worker said, "She remembers you? She knows." But Teresa wasn't done. The next day, I came home and found a note on my door. "I warned you. You don't know what you're doing." I checked my locks. I called the police. Then I bought cameras. I started recording everything. I didn't know what she'd do next, but I knew it wouldn't be small because Teresa had lost control, and I was finally taking it back. The note on my door wasn't just a warning. It was a shift. Teresa was slipping. And when people like her start losing control, they get sloppy. 2 nights after I found that note, my car alarm went off around 3 odd a.m. I ran outside in my pajamas. My front windshield was cracked. Nothing stolen, just cracked. Like someone wanted me to know they'd been there. I called the police again. They made a report. I told them I suspected who it was. The officer asked, "Do you have proof?" I didn't. Not yet. But I had cameras now. And I changed the locks. My lawyer moved fast. The anonymous report that uncovered Teresa's psychiatric history had opened a door. We subpoenaed her sealed records. It took some legal maneuvering, but the judge allowed partial access because of the ongoing custody dispute. What we found was shocking. Back in 2001, Teresa had been caring for a toddler, her niece, when the child suffered a fall. The injury was ruled accidental, but there were inconsistencies in her statements. She was hospitalized for emotional instability and placed under observation for 72 hours. She had a breakdown and claimed someone was trying to take her babies, but she didn't have custody of any children at the time. There was no formal charge. Her record stayed clean, but it painted a picture, and it mirrored what she was doing to me. The day before the final custody hearing, something unexpected happened. A woman named Debbie called my lawyer. She was a former co-worker of Teresa's at a senior care center that had shut down years ago. She said she'd seen the news about the CPS case. It was starting to spread around our small town. She asked if she could talk to me. We met at a diner. Debbie told me Teresa had been quietly dismissed from the senior care job because of boundary issues. She'd gotten too close to certain patients, acted like she was part of their family, crossed lines. One family accused her of trying to get control over their father's estate. Though nothing ever stuck, I asked Debbie, "Why are you telling me this now?" She hesitated. Then she said, "Because I saw..." Her with that baby, and I recognize the look she's doing it again, but this time with your child. That's when I realized this wasn't just about me or even Ellie. Teresa had a pattern. She inserted herself into vulnerable people's lives, then twisted reality until they were isolated. And Sean, he'd been raised by that, maybe he never had a chance. The morning of the hearing, Sean didn't show up, only Teresa did. She walked in calm, confident, wearing a blue dress and pearls like she was the one being honored. But she didn't know what we had. My lawyer presented everything: the sealed psychiatric records, the attempted fake adoption, the false therapist letters, the witness statement from Mia, the testimony from Debbie. We handed over audio recordings. I'd taken on the phone where Teresa slipped and said things like, "You'll thank us when you're better," and "I've taken care of babies longer than you've been alive." We also presented photos from the hidden room and surveillance footage of Teresa outside my apartment the night my windshield was damaged. The judge listened, stone-faced. Teresa stayed quiet, barely looked at me. Then the judge ordered full temporary custody to me, effective immediately. But just as the hearing ended, my lawyer got a call from the sheriff's office. Sean had left town with Ellie. My legs gave out. I collapsed right there in the hallway of the courthouse. Teresa's face turned pale. Her lips moved like she wanted to say something, but no words came out. She hadn't known Sean had taken Ellie and vanished. A missing persons report was filed that day. Police traced his phone signal to a rural area in eastern Washington. Then it went dark. He'd shut it off. The passport paperwork we'd found was fake, but the intent was real. He was planning this the whole time. Everyone focused on Teresa, but Sean had been quiet in the background, playing the long game. Maybe this was his way of saving Ellie. Maybe he thought he could run and raise her on his own. Maybe he believed Teresa when she said I was dangerous, but now he was the criminal. I was granted full legal custody, but I still didn't have my daughter. I went home and stared at her empty room again. But this time was different. This time I had the law behind me, and Teresa. She was finally exposed. She'd lost control and I was just getting started. When Sean disappeared with Ellie, everything inside me shut down. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I went still, focused. I wasn't going to lose her again. The police were involved, but they moved slow, so I made my own moves first. I called every contact Sean had, co-workers, old friends, his cousin who lived up north. I didn't ask for help, I told them the truth. He ran off with our daughter during an open court case. It's illegal. You don't help me, you're part of it. Most ignored me. But one person didn't. His coworker, Travis, quiet guy, always kept his distance. But I remembered him from company parties. He called me back 2 days later. Sean called me last week, Travis said, asked if I knew someone in Idaho with a spare room. That was the break. I handed the tip to the detective on our case. It wasn't proof, but it gave him a lead. They issued a formal Amber Alert across 3 states. His photo, Ellie's photo, my name, all over the news. That was when it all flipped. Teresa's front lawn was flooded with reporters. The story blew up. Mother fights to get baby back from husband who vanished during custody case. Turns out Teresa had told everyone I was unstable, that I'd abandoned Ellie. But now the world knew the truth. Even her neighbors started talking. One of them, a woman named Carmen, posted a video. It showed Teresa carrying Ellie into the house at night, weeks before the court had approved custody. It showed her locking the baby's room. It showed her saying, "Don't tell her you saw the baby all right." It got 50,000 views. Teresa's friends dropped her. She was humiliated. But I wasn't done. I hired a private investigator with the money my mom had saved for Ellie's college fund. It felt wrong to use it, but she told me, "This is for her future. Get her back." He was worth every dollar. 4 days later, he found Sean. He was hiding in a rental trailer in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Police went in. Sean tried to run, but Ellie was inside, strapped in a car seat with the engine on. When they brought her out, she cried, but she reached for the female officer. She was tired, hungry, confused, but safe. They arrested Sean on the spot for custodial, interference, forgery, and endangering a minor. He's still waiting trial. I got Ellie back that night. I sat in the hotel room with her in my lap, holding her tight, rocking back and forth, while she clutched my shirt like she thought I'd vanish. 2. I promised her I'd never let it happen again. But I didn't forget about Teresa. She didn't just help. She started this. She manipulated, lied, and tried to take my daughter forever, and I wasn't going to let her walk away from it. We filed a civil suit against her for emotional distress, conspiracy to commit fraud, and attempted custody interference. With everything that came out, her old mental health records, the witness testimony, the forged adoption paperwork, we had more than enough. Her nursing license, though expired, was officially revoked. She was banned from ever working in child or elder care again. Then came the best part. The judge awarded me $150,000 in damages. It wasn't about the money, it was about the statement. But karma had other plans. Turns out Teresa had taken out a second mortgage on her house to help Sean with legal bills and the private escape plan. When she lost the case to me, she couldn't pay. She had to sell the house. The same house where she once told me, "You'll thank me later," the same house where she locked away my child, gone. As for Sean, he pled guilty to avoid prison. He's now on supervised probation. He's not allowed to see Ellie unless the court agrees. It hasn't yet. He lives alone, lost his job, his car was repossessed. He texted me last Christmas saying he missed her. I blocked him, and me? I went back to work part-time. I'm in therapy. I keep my circle small. I live in a modest 2-bedroom with a playroom just for Ellie. She's 3 now. She loves bubbles, applesauce, and dancing barefoot in the living room. Sometimes, at night she has trouble sleeping. She calls out she needs me close. I always go to her. I lie beside her and whisper, "Mommy's here. Mommy's not going anywhere." And I mean it. Because I've been through hell and I dragged the devil out with me.